Hello, Dr. Tarazi. I apologize. Hello, Dr. Tarazi. How are we doing today?
We are doing really good, Mr. Huves. How are you?
I am doing great. I am doing great. So we want to welcome everybody who is joining us tonight for the November/December Community Forum. I am going to take a quick moment to say something in Spanish, and then I will come back to English. Bienvenidos al Foro de Comunidad de noviembre y diciembre para Oakland Bay Junior High School. Desafortunadamente, no pude hacer funcionar el programa que quería usar para tener traducciones en español. Entonces, por favor, si tienen preguntas, por favor, añade sus preguntas en español en el chat de YouTube y yo puedo responder, o la señora Tarazi, la doctora Tarazi, puede responder. Aunque ella no habla español muy bien, ella entiende un poco, pero ella puede obviamente dejarnos saber su opinión, y ella tiene mucha sabiduría. Okay. All right, folks. So it is 5:01 p.m. We want to thank everybody who was able to join us. We realize that this is the day before winter break begins. So we know that timing-wise, it wasn't perhaps the best, as far as the fact that we know that there are faculty and staff and students and families who have a lot going on. One of the reasons that we record this, however, is so that you can view this at your leisure. We also want you to know that even if you have questions, if you have comments that you need for us to answer, or comments you need for us to read and hear about, community forums are not the only times that you have to do that. Please feel free to email myself or Ms. Tarazi at any point in time, and we will get back to you. We are going on winter break starting tomorrow when school ends. However, I will be monitoring emails every couple of days. So about 2 or 3 days, I will be monitoring the emails. So if you need to contact me during winter break, please feel free to do so. I should get back to you within 72 hours. The only way I would not be able to view email within 3 days would be if there's issues with the internet or something of that nature. But we certainly want to welcome those of you who are able to attend live. So, Dr. Tarazi, how about we get started with the main portion of today? How's that sound?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, then we're going to do it. So when we originally postponed the November forum and made a November-December forum, our intention was that we were hoping to get input and perhaps have a modified, or not modified, but a changing or adaptation of our online schedule that we have weekly, that we could go ahead and start at the beginning of the year 2021 on January 4th. In the process of doing that, one of the things that we do at OBJH, and one of the things that Dr. Tarazi and I do, is we listen to feedback and listen to people's opinions and thoughts. And one of the things early on that we began to gather was that doing something, announcing it tonight, and then boom, first day back from break, we're just going to get into it. It's not necessarily the best thing for students or families or staff, but mainly students and families, because we need time to be able to adjust to any changes. So before we even get to the part where we talk about our next steps, we want to start off by talking about where we've been with this. And we have a presentation that we're going to show. Please note that if you add questions, we will get to them. But for the presentation part, I'm going to go ahead and just give the presentation, and then we'll look at the questions and comments and go through those at the end of the presentation. Okay. So before I get to the presentation, what I do want to mention is the fact that what led us down this journey of, we have an online schedule that we've been using since the first day of school, is first and foremost, anytime that schools or businesses, or frankly, or nonprofits, anytime an institution implements something new, at some point in time, you want to do a check to see how effective it is. We've mentioned before that over the summer, we had already kind of begun planning for the hybrid version, or the hybrid schedule, I should say, excuse me. But what happened was reality hit, and we knew that we weren't going to be able to actually have our hybrid model. So we began to work on what the online model, and in doing so, Dr. Tarazi and I, along with the teachers and paras and office staff and counselors that worked with us in August, Our two top priorities were making sure that our kids had an adult that they could connect with at the beginning of each day, and an adult that they could actually check out with at the end of each day, as a way of making sure that we were able to support kids, not so much with the academics as far as the check-in goes, but more with the social emotional supports or anything that they need assistance with. And the other thing that we wanted to make sure of is the fact that we want to make sure that an adult was, with the kids each and every moment of the school day. Our thought there being the fact that, look, our kids are, anywhere from 11 to 14 years old. We know that a lot of parents and families have to work. So we want to make sure that we were there not only for the academics, but also for making sure that kids were safe and doing well. And that's the reason why we developed the schedule that we did. We will say this, that we know that at the beginning of the year, we had a lot of issues with K-12. There's been a lot of growing pains that we've had. So I'm going to start off by saying thank you, because this is a very new experience to the vast majority of us. I've mentioned before to you that I was a teacher in Louisiana in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina hit. So the idea of students being displaced from their learning is not new to me. However, the use of the technologies we have now to be able to teach is new to me and to all of us. So we appreciate each and every person's feedback. We know that some of you have reached out to say, hey, you're doing great on certain things. And others have been like, you know what, I need to tell these people what's going on because it just ain't working. And we appreciate all that. As the time rolled on, as things got more settled with K-12, as things got more settled with kids getting used to the schedules that we implemented, what we began to start getting feedback on were things that we did not anticipate. And honestly, it became very anecdotal. In other words, I heard from a few parents, a few teachers would say a couple of things, some kids had some things. And about a month or so ago, Dr. Tarazi, I think it was like not right before, but like around the beginning of November, you and I were chatting in a meeting. We're like, we got to get data on this, because right now, all I know is what I'm hearing. And that's not, for all I know, it could be like the people that I'm hearing from are the extreme minority and everybody's just golden and happy with things. And if that's the case, then okay, but let's make sure that we actually have that evidence. So that's the reason why we began this process. And before we got to the surveying and before we got to the actual asking questions of students and asking questions of parents, and then also asking questions of our faculty and staff, what we wanted to identify was what are the things that we're looking to achieve in this? In other words, what is it that we need to make sure not only that we're providing during distance learning, but that we're providing all the time? So as we began to talk about this, there's a guy named Dufour, not really important for if you're not in education, but he actually has some pretty good guiding questions that help educators in general understand the effectiveness of the practices that they're putting into place in the classroom. And not just in the classroom, but also in curriculum. So in looking at that and in listening to what people were already telling us, we were like, we need to identify 2 to 3 things that we're hoping to make sure we have answers from in the survey, but then also if there are changes that need to be made, that those 3 guiding things are what we use to help us make those decisions. So if you remember, I sent an email in November and I highlighted in that email the 3 things that we would be using as our focus, the 3 things we'll be looking at from the data and from what people are telling us to make sure that if there are changes, that those changes keep those 3 things paramount. And I'll remind you of those when we go through the PowerPoint, but I think at this point in time, it's probably good. Let's just go ahead and get started with it. Sounds good? Dr. Tarazi? Sounds good?
Sounds good, yep.
All right. Now, I know there are probably people chiming in, and please know, number 1, hello, hola. But number 2 is the fact that I'm going to go ahead and talk through this presentation. I think Dr. Tarazi might respond here and there. If you have questions and you're like, you know what, I can't wait to the end, I just need to put this out there, go ahead and put it out there. That's fine. Just make sure that you know that we are going to wait till the end, okay? So, can everyone see the PowerPoint presentation? Let me look at my screen. Yep. Okay, so I have my own YouTube page open, which is what I'm looking up right now. And it looks like you can see everything. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the presentation.
There you go.
Okay, let's see if it shows up the way we want to on my screen. Does it show the way it wants to? Okay, I'm gonna assume it does because it's a little bit of a delay on the YouTube page. So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, the idea here is that we want to present to you our parent and student survey responses. So that's what we're going to look at tonight. We're going to share with you what our families and parents have said, and we're going to share with you what our students have said. And Dr. Tarazi might interrupt me at a certain point because of the fact that there might be something like, oh wait, let me add that, or oh wait, he forgot that. And you know what? That's what a good team does. But that's our purpose tonight, is to go ahead and show you what the results are telling us based on the questions that parents and families were asked on December 5th and what students share with us in the survey we put out last week. So let's get started. So our 3 goals in reviewing Stage A online scheduling, which I referenced before, are the 3 that were communicated to you in an email in November when we first started this process, which is number 1, we want to make sure that we're making sure that all students are able to connect and find success in their classes, regardless of when they connect with us. There's really 2 meanings to that. There's the meaning of what time of the day they connect. So we want to make sure the kids who are connecting with classes, but who are not able to necessarily make the live classes for whatever reason, are able to still find success, and that we're making sure we're meeting their needs. But then the other side of that is the reality of the fact that we still have kids who do not have stable connections to the internet. And I would love to tell you that here in December we've solved that problem, but we haven't. And we're trying really hard, but we haven't. And we're not alone. Every single district that I know of that is right now on a hybrid or a distance learning still has segments of the population that has not been fully connected. So then the question becomes, what about those students? So on our end, our teachers and our staff and our parents, we all know that the moment that these kids get into their learning, we want to make sure that number 1, we welcome them, and number 2, that we set them up for success. And that's going to look a little bit different for everybody, as it always does, because there's not a one size fits all for every student. But we want to make sure with number 1, what we're making sure of here is that if a kid cannot access the class in a traditional time using traditional methods, that student still has the exact same ability to be successful as any other student. So that's number 1. Number 2, and as a reminder, folks, I'm just going to say this again, my throat gets dry after talking for a little bit, so if I have to take a pause and drink some tea, please forgive me. So the second thing is this: making sure that we're providing all the necessary supports possible during Stage A so that all students are able to connect and find success. So with that, there comes what we've been doing with technology, but then also what we need to do for supporting kids academically, but also in their socio-emotional development, because not being at school and not going through the day in a school culture, there are certain rites of passages that they're not getting. There's certain non-academic yet very important lessons about life and about growth that they're not fully getting because of the fact that they're not on campus. So we want to make sure that we're actually addressing those needs as well. And then the third one is making sure that students who are demonstrating mastery of standards are being provided the opportunity and support to go to the next level in their learning. So when we look at the schedule and any changes or adjustments we need to make, we want to make sure that while at the same time we're creating systems to support kids who need more support in general, who aren't able to necessarily come to the live class, and the kids who are intermittently connecting or are connecting in just the last few weeks or days, actually. We want to make sure that we also taking care of and supporting the kids who they get it. And not only they get it, but they're getting it really quick. In other words, they are demonstrating, okay, boom, got this, boom, got this. Yep, you want me to do that? Boom, here, I did it. Because if we don't address them, then we're holding them back. So those are the 3 things that we want to make sure that we're addressing with any possible changes or modifications to our online teaching schedule. There is one more that has come up since my email, and I'll tell you which one that is. We want to also make sure that once we get this done, that as we are now looking towards the hybrid model of instruction, that in the event that we have to revert back to an online distance learning model, that we're also making sure that we are having as few disruptions as possible to teachers, to families, and to kids as far as times and classes. So with that, let me go ahead and give you some information regarding the parent and family surveys. Now, on Tuesday, December 8th, everyone knows that we had asynchronous learning that day because our advisors went ahead and reached out to families to conduct a survey. Now, that survey actually had two parts to it, but we just did the survey together. There was the first part, which was information for the Shelton School District regarding family preferences regarding hybrid learning, and then also for those who do plan on coming to school once we get to hybrid learning, information regarding siblings, schools, and transportation means. All that information has been delivered to the school district, and they're working on their end for the supports that they do in preparation for hybrid learning. We're also looking at that as well. There were some questions that were part of the survey where a lot of families gave us opinion and their thoughts about the general sense of hybrid scheduling, some of the concerns or confusion that there is regarding hybrid scheduling, the hybrid schedule. And please know that those have not only just been forwarded to the district, but we're also looking at them as well on our end, because we have been planning for hybrid for a while now. There have been a lot of changes since we started our planning. We are resuming that rather, well, not suddenly, but we're resuming it when we get back from break. And then we're also bringing in our teachers and our paras and our team in to make sure that we're getting as many voices as possible. So I tell you all that because of the fact that I want to make sure that everyone understands that the data we're going to show tonight is specific to OBJH, but the questions and the information and the comments you provided to us regarding the hybrid model of instruction, that's been recorded. The district has that. And then for us, we have it too, because we're looking at your comments and what you've said, because that's going to help us in our process of what is that hybrid schedule going to look like. So with that, here is the information. I just kind of went through this with you as well. The fact that on December 8th is when we conducted the survey. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, well, no one called me, don't worry. Please know that we are still reaching out to some of the families that we have not been in contact with. I personally will be making calls to some of our families who have chosen a language other than English that they prefer to communicate in over winter break. So we're hoping to get close to 100% compliance by then. But you know what? I would say this: if no one's contacted you by January 4th and you're like, why hasn't anyone reached out to me? Give us a call. Let us know. Hey, saw the YouTube, saw the principal. He said people called. Fun fact, they didn't. I'd like to give my voice heard, and we can take care of that for you. Just so you know, here are the at this time dates. These have all been released. People are aware of these, but I want to share these with you as well. So these are the at this time, excuse me for 1 second, please. The at this time tentative start dates for hybrid learning. So for 7th graders, tentatively, they would start on Monday, February 21st. So what that means is any kid, any of our students that want to come to campus to actually receive instruction, when we start the hybrid model, they would be able to start the week of Monday, February 21st. Now, we've communicated this, and this has not changed. There will be two cohorts. There'll be a group of kids, the A group and the B group. A group will meet Monday, Tuesday. B group will meet Thursday, Friday, and then Wednesday will be an asynchronous learning day. So 7th graders come first. We want to make sure we have enough time to be able to welcome them to the school. They have not been to our campus yet. We want to have some time to be able to orient them, make sure that they get comfortable and settled well in the school before we bring our 8th graders in. And our 8th graders will start their hybrid learning for those who choose to come to school once the hybrid option is available, starting Monday, March 15th. Now, these are the dates at this time. Please know that the circumstances and conditions, both locally and heck, even nationally, could have an effect on the actual true start date. And then finally, number 4 is this. OBJH has submitted comments, like I said before, related to the hybrid learning to the district. We're going to also look at those comments because we think that's going to be helpful for us as we're planning, not just for the distance learning, not only as we look at any possible changes to the current online learning, but then as we're looking at the actual hybrid schedule, the comments and questions that you submitted for the district. We want to look at as well because we think it'll be useful for us at our school. Okay, so here we go. Do you believe the current schedule is working for you and your students? So this is parents and families. We had 392 responses by the time we drew the data from this. So that's actually a significant majority of our families. And here is the response. Do you believe the current schedule is working for you and your students? 72.7% of families said yes, we believe it's working for us. But 27.3% said no, we don't believe it's working for us. Okay, so at this point, we're like, okay, it looks like the majority feel it's working, although there's a strong minority that it's not working for. So then we go to our next question. I want to dive a little bit deep into how changes might impact people. So the next question we asked was, would you support changes to the schedule to allow for built-in time to support your students' learning? So 77% said yes. They said, you know what, if you're going to do some changes, but the outcome of those changes is to have some built-in supports for the kids during the day, then by all means, we would support it. 8% said, no, we don't want that. And then 14.4% said maybe. We do not have any questions to dive further into the 14.4%, but what we did was we looked at a lot of the comments and a lot of the feedback that families gave in other questions, and we're beginning to kind of get a sense of what the maybe is. I will say for myself that based on what I read, I'm guessing, but I think it's a very good guess, that the maybe is really people not quite, yes, I might support some things that you do, but others I might not. That's the way I'm interpreting some of those maybes. Dr. Tarasi, did you want to add anything, or do we move on?
No, we might get into that when we, I think we have a chance to see some of our questions or some of our responses. So maybe we'll touch on that a little more.
Right. Well, so we didn't include responses because of the fact that we want to make sure that if we only include a few of them, then we didn't want anybody to feel that they were being left out. But what we did was, and we'll get to it in a second, is we looked at all the responses and basically came up with the common themes that were presented. Yes. So yeah. Okay, so the next question is, would it be beneficial to provide your student with tutoring and support 1 day a week? An example of this would be having tutorial windows open, and I just picked a random time frame, 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So the idea being here that on 1 day a week, kids could go in voluntarily to tutorial sessions. It may or may not be with their teachers, but it would be content specific, excuse me. So for example, let's say that I'm at home and my internet is not really working well until 6 p.m. or I don't have access to the internet until 6 p.m. That around 6 p.m. there would be some blocks of times to where if I want to go get help in social studies, I can go get help in social studies. If I want to go get help in math, I can get help in math. Let's say I need to access those services at 1 p.m. Well, same thing. There would be a window where you could go in and get that help. So it would be basically you going into the quote unquote math room or the quote unquote social studies room, and then there'd be people there to help you. It may or may not be your teacher, but it would be people specifically geared towards that content. So with that idea, 60% or about 61% said yes, that sounds good. 16% said no, I don't like that idea at all. And then 23% said maybe. For this one, based on some of the comments I read, I think the maybe, at least I'll say this much. I know there were a few comments that made me think that some of the maybes with this is it would depend on what times, but then also the comments made me think that some people are thinking, okay, but then what do you have to take away, right? It's the idea of them people not fully understanding, okay, yeah, my kid can call in for this window of time to get help in this area, but what is being sacrificed? What's being taken away? And again, I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but just the sense of what I read, that's what I think that a lot, or at least some of those maybes were about. So here's the input that I was just talking about. So Dr. Tarazi and I, when we were discussing this, we were thinking about putting comments up here. But here's the thing, I didn't want to create a situation to where we had only select comments. and there'd be people in our community who are like, well, okay, you picked that comment, but why not mine? Or, oh, you're only picking these comments, but you're not picking those comments. So we just want to make sure we honored everybody's comments by not singling out specific ones to put in the presentation. But what we did do was this: we take a look at the comments and we picked out common themes, and here they are. And again, this is from the parents and the families. Screen time. A lot of comments about screen time. I did not find a single comment saying we need more screen time. I will say for this one, all the screen time comments that I read were about it's too much. Rigor of courses. This was two different things being mentioned. Some people mentioned the fact that the classes were too challenging or too hard. There's not enough time being dedicated to support kids in the content. But then there were a bunch of others saying, this is too simple, this is too easy, you're holding my kid back. So when I say rigor courses, understand that it's people thinking that it's too much and people think it's not enough, which again, doesn't surprise me because of the fact that that can be very common in normal times too. But when we're talking about distance learning and we're talking about this new format, it can cause some greater disparities. And I'll just say this: I know that there are some students who, traditionally have done well in their classes. They're, but on this online learning, because it's new to them and because there's certain differences that we don't quite realize about learning on a computer versus learning in person, it's having impacts in different ways. So that didn't surprise me. The third one was student supports, when students are struggling and when students are getting it. So again, this kind of falls to our third goal. And I was not surprised that in comments, that third goal came out quite frequently. There were comments where people were expressing the fact that, hey, my kid is not getting the support he or she needs. I mean, it's too fast, or there's just not enough time for the teacher to be able to work with my student. But we also got a lot of comments of people saying, hey, my kid gets this and you're holding him or her back. So again, this was not surprising. I'll speak for myself. I suspected we get comments like that because of the fact that, again, we kind of had general anecdotal evidence, but it's good to see in the actual data that this is actually correct. And the fact that there is a very, very polarized different views of how people are experiencing the online learning, specific to, is it too much or is it not enough? Okay. Schedule alignment. This is one that I did not quite expect to see, but there were quite a few comments about this, Dr. Tarazi. So there were comments about, for example, our schedule not lining up with food distribution or the food pickup. There were some comments, people sharing that, hey, my kid gets late to class because they have to go at X time to get food, but then the class starts at this time and they're sometimes late. There are some other people who mentioned other services to the district that the class times that we have now interfere or cause their student to miss parts of the lesson. So I will say this: that wasn't something I was fully aware of until we did this survey. So for those of you who provide the information, thank you so much, because for me speaking, that was a revelation. That was not something I had foreseen. Dr. Tarazi, how about you?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, it makes me want to survey parents, like more regularly, like how can we, when they provide this information for us, I mean, it is invaluable. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll share with our viewers that you and I have been discussing the fact that there's a lot of good things that we're learning from the online model that we just don't think need to go away. And one of the things that Dr. Tarazi and I are both invested in is the idea of feedback. So I anticipate, and if I'll say this much, you can expect that the idea of surveying you to see how things are going is not going to be unique to this one moment in time or to this particular issue.
Exactly.
Okay, next one: expression of satisfaction with the way the schedule is currently structured. So we did get a lot of people who wrote saying, hey, things are looking great, guys. Don't touch anything. It looks perfect. Thank you. And then we had one I call it management of student activities, when they are in whole class settings, when they're in individual and or group activities. So here's the type of comments we got. My son or my daughter is on the screen the entire time and the teacher's talking, and they don't really get to kind of break away. But then I got other comments that were saying things like, okay, well, the teacher dismisses class way too early. And then we got some comments along those lines. My student gets told that he or she can go work on a task, and then they have to come back at a certain time. And within those, the ones we're just talking about, the ones about talking about the fact that the student gets allowed to work on their own and then comes back, there were some people who commented on the idea that, hey, I worry that my kid's going to go play a game, video game, or whatever, and not do the work. So that was good to read. That was good to hear. And thank you. That's all I got to say right now about that. Thank you for sharing. Pacing of classes. I wanted to go ahead and throw this one in here because that was a common thing that kept manifesting in a lot of the comments in different ways. I will say that from what I read, my taking was that pretty much many of the comments had a certain issue of pacing connected to, was the class structured in such a way to where it was going too fast? Is the class structured in such a way as to where it's going too slow? And then within that as well, I'll go ahead and say there were a few comments about break times. Some people saying that we need more break times, people saying it's too much. So again, this is good data. This helps us either confirm things we suspected, it reveals new things we didn't even think about, and then in some cases, I'll be honest with you, there are things I suspected, but they turned out to not be accurate. Like it's not really what I thought it was. So thank you for that. Okay, now we go to our students. So before we go any further, students, please listen carefully. Those of you who took the survey by 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday, we will be announcing the winners. There'll be 2 7th graders and 2 8th graders. And here's your choices. Right now, we're going to be offering you a $5 gift certificate to either McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell. I believe we said iTunes, iTunes, and then Amazon. So stay tuned for that. The winners will be announced, and then we'll be in touch to see which is the prize that you want. So we want to thank everybody, all the kids, every single student who participated. Your voice is important because guess what? You have your parents who spoke, and then your teachers and pairs and everybody is speaking. And Ms. Tarazi and I have ideas, but honestly, we're kind of here for you. You're kind of the reason why we're here. So we're really glad that you guys chose to express yourselves and to give us your thoughts. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, I'm going to tell you something. I'm really proud of you guys. I'm going to tell you why. When I first proposed the idea of doing a student survey, I said, I want to have 2 questions. I want to have 2 questions that, Ms. Tarazi, the answer is no. Sorry, she just messaged me on an issue, and I just want to give her a quick answer. So regarding the survey, when I mentioned the fact that I wanted to have 2 questions that were open-ended, I'm gonna be honest with you, got some feedback from some people like, well, that's great, but they're gonna write stuff, and they're gonna like basically like they're gonna be disrespectful, they're gonna be they're gonna say things that are silly. And honestly, my response was, you know what, if they do, they do, but you know what, at least they know we're listening to them. There are some funny comments, but nothing at all disrespectful or in any way non-productive. There were a couple of funny comments that I thought were hilarious. So I just want to thank you guys because of the fact that you really did use your voice. So right now we want to listen to what you had to say. Okay, so the questions, the first one is, how is online learning going for you? Now, we do need to point out the fact that we have, Dr. Tarazi, about what, 560 students, is that right?
Yep, just about.
Okay, but we only had about 89 respond, correct?
I included, so there's 94.
Okay,
Yep.
So we had surveys in 2 languages. So when you combine both groups, it's 94 students. So we're really talking about a small population of students who responded. So we're keeping that into account because 94 out of 560 kids is not the best pool representation, but we are listening to what those 94 had to say. Okay, so how is online learning going for you? Student responses, love it. 6 kids said they love it. 26 kids said better than I thought it would be. 20 kids said about the same as being in school. 33 said not as good as when I'm at school, and then 9% said they hate it. So it looks to me, I'm just kind of looking at the numbers here. It looks to me there's a little bit of a slight lean towards the away from the neutral, right? About the same as being in school. There's a slight lean more towards the not as good as it should be. But that doesn't mean that we just ignore the fact that we've got almost half the kids saying, yeah, no, it's pretty much good. And heck, don't change anything. So that's what our students said on that question. Next one. Do you have enough time to be able to get help from teachers right now? Here's what kids have to say. 17 of them said, I have way too much time to talk with teachers. 27% said, yes, for the most part, but I could use time in some classes. Okay. And then 44% said, you know what, it really depends. I mean, it depends. 5 said not really, and then 1 said no, not at all. There's no time for me whatsoever to get assistance from teachers. Okay, so again, we only have about 94 kids here, but that doesn't mean that this voice isn't a valid one. So when we look at this one, what we're seeing is that there is not as much, shall we say, towards the negative on support time. Dr. Tarazi, honestly, I'm wondering, if we were to ask the question, do you feel like the support you're getting during the time is sufficient, right? Not that our teachers aren't doing a great job, but it could be that maybe because of the fact that they're online and, there's certain limitations in technology, and, it's very difficult for a teacher to be able to walk by a student's desk and kind of say, hey, how can I help you with this one? Or, hey, I saw you need help with that. Some of that personal disconnect, right? I'm wondering if that were questioned, if we would see a little bit of a change.
Yeah, it would be interesting. And I do think if we, take a look at the wording on both questions and maybe come up with, and maybe ask our students, we now have an ASB group of students, and maybe get their input and ask them, or maybe test the questions out on them and see what they think. So get their feedback. So yeah.
That's actually a really good point, Dr. Tarazi. I didn't think about that. Yeah, no, definitely. So, we're not going to bore you guys. Like, we're not going to bore you students, and parents aren't going to bore you. But when you're looking at like collecting information and data, Dr. Tarazi, like I said, she's Dr. Tarazi. By the way, that's a new title. So congratulations on your doctorate. And then I also have a master's in linguistics. So we both know that the words and the way you formulate a question can cause responses to shift. So that's what we're talking about here, is the fact that this question, the way it's worded, what we're seeing is that kids are saying, for the most part, kind of, but okay, whatever. Not all of them are saying that, but that's the way it's leaning. And I agree with Dr. Tarazi. I think moving forward, as we get more feedback from students on this issue and others, right, that we need to get a panel of students so they can hear our questions and they can just tell us whether they sound okay, or are we talking too adultish, or whatever, right?
Mr. Huvis.
Yes, ma'am.
We actually have one of our teachers who gives kudos. He's like, love that idea of consulting the ASB. So thank you to our teacher.
All right. Yes, and I see our teacher on there now, Mr. Conklin. You are awesome as always. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think that's not only a great idea, that's an idea that needs to happen, because we are about student-centered, right? So absolutely. Okay, next question. Oh, wait, we only had 2. Wait, we had how many, Dr. Tarazi? I'm blanking out here real quick. We had 2 or 3 questions that were kind of like select the answer, and then we wanted to make sure that we didn't go over 5, if I'm not mistaken, and we want to make sure the last 2 were the open ones. Is that right?
Yes, that's how we. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we had more questions for parents, but for our students, we're like, look, let's just keep it simple, and keep it simple but meaningful. So that's the way we had 2 open-ended questions. So one of the questions that we asked students was, what should we not change? And then the other one was, what do we need to change? I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, hey, as we look in adjusting possibly the online schedule, what should we not adjust, right? And then the other one was, what should we be adjusting? So here are the answers that basically, again, these aren't specific words that the kids used, but these are the actual things that came up. So the keep it ones, they said, keep the brakes, keep the brakes, keep the brakes. Times, keep the times, keep the times, keep the times. And then quite a few of them wrote, let's just stay online. I like this online thing. Okay. And then we actually got quite a few answers about this. They said festivals, like we really like the fall festival. By the way, tomorrow is our winter festival. So I sent a modified schedule to families on Sunday. You can also find it on our Facebook page and on our district web page. But classes do end at 11 a.m. tomorrow. And the last 2 blocks of time are actually for the winter festival activities. Your teachers, your parents worked really hard for this because of the good feedback we got about the fall one. So we really hope that you enjoy the winter one as much, or if not more than the fall one. But a lot of kids were like, hey, that was actually a really cool idea. You should know this. You have great teachers and you have great people at school. I would love to take credit for it, but I can't. I'm just the guy who basically, when they came and told me, hey, we should do this, I'm like, holy goodness, that's a great thing to do. Let's do it. So, congratulations to the teachers and the parents and the entire planning team that came up with that idea, because it was very successful and the kids commented. Okay, and then finally, teachers, support being given as well as flexibility. So there were a couple of comments from kids about the fact that they appreciate their teachers being flexible with them. The idea of, okay, kid comes late to class, they don't get griped at. Teachers being understanding of the different situations are going on. So that was good to hear. And please know that my hope is that everyone's having that experience with all parts of OBJH. Just so you know, Dr. Tarazi, before we start, I said, look, my internet may go out. It's been kind of sketchy today. So if it goes out, she takes over. And she's understanding of that. And I'm sure you would be too if that happens. And I hope I did not just jinx myself by saying it out loud. But I appreciate the fact that students were saying that about our teachers. Okay, change it. So here we go, change it. They said brakes, same thing. Keep it. Some kids were saying keep the brakes, keep the brakes, keep the brakes. And then some kids were saying change the brakes, change the brakes, change the brakes. Now, the changes were not, we want more break time. Every comment with this issue in that question was, we want less break time. The 15 minutes is way too long. Okay, that's good feedback. Times. Students were talking about the fact that, you know what, it starts too early, or, advisory is way too early in the morning. There were no comments with time that I saw specific about how much time, how long a class is. They were more related to the start of school and then, again, the breaks themselves. Online, obviously, we got some kids who said, you know what, this online thing is just, I hate it. Don't like it at all. Okay. So they're saying they want to be back in school. So here's what I will say is that, yeah, I hear you. And guess who else wants you back in school? I do. But more importantly than me, your teachers, your paras, our counselors, they all want you back, guys. And we're really, really looking forward to having you guys back, even if it's just for hybrid, just because of the fact that we miss you. We haven't had a chance to meet you yet, and we're looking forward to it. And then the last one I wanted to add, because of the fact that there were quite a few kids who talked about this, and I thought it was a valid point. Add PE, music, art, etc. They want their classes that are beyond the core 4. They want the classes to where they get to express themselves and shine in areas other than math, science, ELA, and social studies, where I'm sure they're shining as well. But you know what, Dr. Tarazi, I was good at math, but there's a reason why I'm not a mathematician, right? I was good at science, but there's a reason why I'm not a rocket scientist. Well, there's a couple of reasons why, but science is just not really something that I'm interested in dedicating my life to, right? My thing was languages. I was a huge fan of languages. I always had been. And I can't imagine how things would have been for me had I not had the opportunity to take, upper level French classes or upper level Spanish classes when I was growing up. So believe me, guys, I hear you on that one. And please know that my iWatch apparently wants to talk. I hear you, our teachers are hearing you, the district hears you. Please know that no one's trying to keep these classes away from you because we don't value them or anything of that nature. There are some pretty hard decisions and tough choices that have to be made right now during this time. But please do know that the reason why I'm adding this is because not only am I hearing you, but we've been hearing you. Everyone's hearing you, and we're not ignoring you, believe me. Our next steps. So the next steps is we're going to be gathering information from our faculty and staff. So that we're in the process of doing that now. We have survey questions for them, and they're providing us their feedback as well. When we get back in January, what we're going to be doing is gathering a group of people who are interested from the school team, teachers, and others who are interested, and kind of forming a scheduled task force team. Our goal really is to look at the data we're getting with regards to the current online schedule. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the community forum, we are actually also in the process of planning the hybrid learning. And so one of the things that we want to do, as I mentioned in the beginning, is whatever modifications are made to the stage A, the online schedule, we want to make sure that if we have to go back to that at some point, let's say we start hybrid, and let's hope this does not happen, but we have to go back to hybrid, to distant learning. We want to make the transition as seamless as possible. We don't want to create a situation to where the hybrid schedule is so different from the online schedule that, frankly, going back to the online is going to cause people to have to readapt in too many ways as far as times and whatnot with the schedule. So any adjustments, again, are going to ensure that we'll be making are to ensure that if we need to go back to stage A, we can. I just mentioned that. And then we have been working on a hybrid learning schedule for several months now. As I mentioned when we first started, over the summer, that's where we thought we were going. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but there was some work being done then. But a lot has changed. So a lot of the work that was done then is really not that valid now. But what is valid is the fact that we have now, as opposed to August, a greater team of people at the school who are able to provide better, more feedback and additional voices. And we have you as well. So we want to make sure that you know that we're listening and we're taking note. We also want to take a quick moment away from the discussion of scheduling and the work we're trying to do to get your input so that we can better improve our services to you, and talk about other services. And I'm just going to take a quick moment here and just kind of talk with people real quick. And that's to say this. The holidays are a great time of year for many people. Christmas is an important holiday, is an important moment for people for many different reasons, for religious reasons, for family reasons, for all kinds of reasons. But in addition to Christmas, we have other festivities going on. We're in the season of Hanukkah right now. There are other holidays being celebrated during this time. But even in the best of times, the holidays aren't always the happiest or the merriest for some people. And there are some people who need a little bit of extra support, a little bit extra attention, and they just need to know that there are people out there who are there to help. That's in a normal time. In this moment in time that we're in right now, that's even more important. Even for a lot of people who aren't dealing with the challenges that many of us are dealing with right now, the fact that you cannot be with family and friends is something that is going to have a very strong impact on you. And I don't care if you're 11 years old or 101 years old, this applies to all of us. So we want to take a quick moment to share with you during this community forum some resources that we have to share with you in case you are in need. You can see here that we have our links to Mrs. Adams. So this is the counseling app, my apologies. So Mrs. Adams' 7th grade counseling app, and then Mrs. Smith is 8th grade counseling app. And here's a little fun fact about the counselors, guys. Yeah, there's a 7th grade one, there's an 8th grade one, but really, honestly, they're all your counselors. So they're all willing to help you. So just know that. But we also know that, we might need a little bit more support. So we want to provide you some information. We have the True North Mental Health Intake Line. That number's there for you. We also want to share with you the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and that's a 1-800 number, so it's free of charge. We have the crisis clinic of Thurston and Mason Counties Youth Helpline, and that number's on the screen for you as well. And then if you want to send a text and you're just like, I don't want to call, you can send a text the word home to 741-741. So at this point, I want to thank you for allowing me to talk a bit, to present this to you. At this point, we're going to go ahead and stop because I've done a lot of talking and it's time for me to listen and to be able to answer questions. So Dr. Tarazi, do we have questions?
We do not. We have lots of fun teacher comments.
Okay, well, hey, so we have Nightmare. I'm going to probably mispronounce this name. Please forgive me, folks. Forgive me if I ever mispronounce stuff. I was in a quick little story. I was observing a class a few weeks ago and had a student. I kept mispronouncing his name. And I kept trying again. I mispronounced his name. And I told him, I'm really, really sorry. You'll have to teach me. He's like, that's okay, Huvez. Don't worry about it. So thank you for that. So we have Nightmare Gotcha says, hey, and then do you play Among Us? And then you say good evening. And then Nightmare Gotcha says, yep. And then I live in Oregon for a while, but I was born in the UK. Mr. Conklin already told us he loved the idea of ASB. Miss Smith says, yes, let's add art, exclamation point, exclamation point. Ms. Smith, I think we're all on the same page here. I think every single person in the Shelton School District is looking for the day when our specialist teachers are able to offer the courses that our kids need. We're all on the same page on that. Ms. Smith says, I agree with the kids. They gave such good input. Yeah, they did. Absolutely, they did. And honestly, I was kind of prepared. You know, I mean, I'm not new to education, but honestly, like I told the people who were concerned about the open-ended questions, like, you know what? If someone's going to do that, they're going to do that. But I'm not going to shut down the kids' voices just because of some people choosing to perhaps not use their voice correctly. And like I said, everyone did. In fact, there are some funny comments that were actually really good and appropriate. One of them actually made me laugh for a couple hours. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty good. So the fact that you're already making me laugh and we haven't even met face to face yet, I'm really excited to see you guys at school. I really am. And then we have Mr. Sell says, I'm guessing not related to the forum. Nightmare Gotcha. No, Nightmare Gotcha has joined us at one or two forums. And some other student, I'm assuming a student, and if not, that's okay, welcome. But I'm assuming a student. And we've had some students who've chimed in on things that aren't related to the forum. Last time we had a forum, we had a really good conversation about language. If you remember, we had a student who was using I'll use the word alphabet, but it's probably not alphabet, but it was characters. That's the word I'm looking for. They're using characters from Asian languages, and we learned a little bit about that student. So yeah, sometimes we have kids just coming in here and talking to us, and it may not be fully related. Okay, do we have any other questions, or anybody have anything they want to add? It's Randy. Randy rocks in my third period. Hi, Randy. Sweet, it's Randy. Hi, Randy. By the way, just so you guys know, Dr. Tarazi here has been helping me. And what I forgot to do this evening, which is something that I was supposed to do, was to open the chat box so that she could I could read her messages to me to make sure that I actually, you know, like if she gave me like the 5-minute warning that I would do that. And basically we had planned on me talking for 15 minutes and I think I talked for 40. So yeah. So next forum, I will open the chat box, Ms. Dr. Tarazi, so that I actually do what I'm supposed to do.
Sounds good.
Okay, we got Randy is awesome from Miss Adams. We've got Mr. Sells saying hi, Randy.
So can I share something really quick?
You can share as much as you want.
One of my dogs, I actually have 3, but one of my dogs is named Randy. So every time we keep saying Randy on the computer, my dog is running around thinking we're calling him.
Oh, really?
He's like, what?
Okay, so I'm thinking right now that at some point we're going to have Randy around. There you go. Hey, buddy. We'll just have to, he's an honorary Timberwolf.
Yeah.
But we'll just have to say his name a couple of times from different people. So he'll be like, why am I so popular? Why does everybody think I'm cool?
Well, Randy's awesome, I guess. So thanks, Stacy and Mr. Sells, Andrea. Anyway, that was my 2 cents.
Mr. Sells says, okay, my apologies if it is. Mr. Sells, I do not know what you're apologizing about. I don't think you have anything to apologize about, but okay, we'll take it. Well, we are at 5 minutes till 6 o'clock. One of the things that we don't want to do is to just keep people here with a blank, blank airwaves, so to speak. So I have been practicing my harmonica and my yodeling. No, don't do that. Okay, got it. Okay, Dr. Tarazi keeps me in line here, so I will not be yodeling and doing harmonicas. But I will go ahead and take this moment to say thank you for joining us, and for those of you who are viewing the recording, thank you for viewing the recording. The community forum is not the only time when you can ask questions or share comments with us. Feel free to do so at any point in time. Please feel free to email myself, Mario Juves. I'm the principal of Oakland Bay Junior High School at mju, V as in Victor, ES, at sheltonschools.org. Or you can contact Dr. Rachel Tarazi, Dr. Rachel Tarazi. Do you want to give your information? Dr. Tarazi.
Right, but and my email is r.Tarazi, Torazzi.
Sounds like we could come up with a little catchy tune there, like Torazzi. Okay, just got the message. Don't sing again. That's bad.
Yeah,
okay,
we're good.
Perfect. Okay. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. School ends tomorrow at 11 a.m., but please remember that although school will not be in session, that you are not alone and that we are here for you as well as other people in the community. We look forward to seeing you online on January 4th. We will keep you updated on where we are with the schedule, with the Stage A schedule, and we will most definitely keep you updated and have a community forum specific to the hybrid schedule prior to its launch, so that everyone is up to speed with where we're at, as well as being able to provide us with feedback that we need to know. So on that note, I will say thank you. Have a great evening.
Happy holidays, everyone. Restful break.
All right. Good night, everybody. Have a great holiday. Have a great break. And we will see you virtually in January, and looking for the day when we see you not virtually in your home, which is the Bay. So as we say, for those of you who don't know this, because you haven't been to Oakland Bay yet, when we end our meetings, we say what, Dr. Tarazi?
Go Bay.
Go Bay.
Go Bay. Maybe we should say it at the same time.
Oh, we should. Ready? Hold on a second. Ready?
On 3.
3, 2, 1.
Go
Bay. All right. Good night, everybody. Hang tight.
Go ahead.
And we're out.